Good day, fellow investors. Welcome to Arabian Property Pulse, your weekly podcast dedicated to the real estate market in the Middle East. Fueled by coffee and powered by our sponsor, Nelson Park Property, I'm your host, Jeffrey Asselstein. Good day and welcome to the newest episode of Arabian Property Pulse. I'm pleased to announce that we're going to have a monthly feature where I'm repurposing a podcast from Majlis Masters Network. Majlis Masters Network is a company that is looking to build an outstanding mastermind network within the Middle East. Along with my partner, Stefan Lindbergh-Jones, we're creating the Majlis Masters Network. Along with that, will be a podcast that will go out on a regular basis to let people know what's happening with the network. Now, as part of that, we will have a monthly book of the month where we'll both read the same book, which is the idea, and then share our insights from that book. And as a good friend of mine, Victor Nash, likes to say, if you're just consuming the book as a bit of content, as entertainment, you're sort of missing the point. So we're looking to find books that are interesting, both to ourselves and to our listeners, and then share our insights each month. So sit back and enjoy. This is a bit of a longer episode, as you'll know. And this is us reviewing Simon Sinek's fantastic book, The Infinite Game. Hope you enjoy it. At all times, please like, subscribe, let your friends know, share with them. And by all means, jump over to the Majlis Masters Network podcast as well and sign up for that. Any feedbacks, we'd love to receive it. Just email us at podcasts@nelsonparkproperty.com.
Well, welcome to the Majlis Masters Network. Do we call it a podcast, Jeffrey? What do we call it?
It is. Absolutely.
It is our first podcast, which will go out on our various social media. On your podcast, will it go out on your podcast, or are
Absolutely. I'm going to be repurposing it for Arabian Property Pulse.
Okay.
So that'll be following right away. Yeah.
And I'll put it out on SLJ Coach as well. Do you want to just do the introduction of what the Majlis Masters Network is? Because I think you're more detailed when it comes to description.
Sure. Thank you. So Majlis Masters Network is what we are creating is a mastermind network for the Middle East. And the whole goal is not to be another networking group. In fact, it's not a networking group at all. In other words, we're not going there. The idea of creating the network is to have a group of people that get together on a regular basis, sometimes face-to-face on an annual, maybe a biannual event. And then probably on quarterly Zoom meetings where we get together and we share our experiences, where someone, predominantly entrepreneurs and how they're running their business and things they've done to really make changes for the positive in their businesses. And that could be around finance, around marketing, around AI, anything at all. And what we want to do is share the common experience that we all have as entrepreneurs. You're an entrepreneur, I'm an entrepreneur. And then we'll be inviting people to join our group, the Majlis Masters Network, and really benefit from each other. And again, we really want to differentiate ourselves from any kind of standard networking group. Although it's a network in itself, it's not, I'll pick on my own country. It's not like the Canadian Business Club where people get together and have a chat and you see the same people every time. It's more about actually sharing your experience and us learning from each other. That's what's really important about it.
Yeah, and that's really important for me as well, because as you know, and as we've been part of various networks, yes, it's great to network and connect with people, but there's no oomph, there's no support, there's no, all right, there's sometimes guest speakers, but bless you.
Thank you.
Even though we can't hear it, there's no kind of looking out for each other.
Yep. And that's what we want to change. Yeah.
And that's what we want to change. We want to change the environment for that. And we feel that there is such a energy in the Middle East, a very positive energy. All right, there's different types of energy in the Middle East, but there is entrepreneurs here, and there is, that will to succeed and to help and to give back, which Indeed. I'm all for. So yep. Why are we here? Why are we here today? What are we going to talk about?
So one of our ideas, a lot of different podcasts, we both consume a lot. And often when you have, masters networks, people will talk about books they've read that they found to be beneficial. And so we just created a little challenge for each other for 2025. There we go. there's the book, is to have a book of the month, which will
Hold on,
probably
how
both.
how does yours look cleaner than mine? Why does mine look a bit
Well,
squid?
that's your dust jacket, right? And this is
Oh
just a
no, I've
paperback.
got you got the paperback. I've got the dust.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. All right, it's just black underneath. Okay. All right, yeah, sorry.
There you go. Yeah. So the idea being, again, in a network like Majlis Masters, we'll share different ideas of things we've gone through, and often it'll come to, well, what books are you reading? Darren Hardy has a great book in itself called The Compound Effect, and one thing he talks about is that one of the key traits of highly successful people, and you can define success in any way you want to for this, one of the key traits is that they have a lifelong desire to continue learning. So it doesn't stop at high school or university or post grad or whatever somebody may take, that they're always learning and consuming good information, consuming good books. So that's the idea, is that we'll, on a monthly basis, both read a book and then have a podcast to share our insights, what we got out of the book. And as another podcast, a good friend of mine, Victor Menashe, likes to say, if you're reading the book just as a piece of entertainment, you're kind of missing the point.
Mm.
The idea is to learn some lessons from it, and that's why actually I found this one to be exceptional. So I'm looking forward to getting into it with you.
Yeah, and I really appreciate it because I do like reading books, but you read a little bit and then you put it down and then life takes over and then it's just like you come back to it and then you think, what was it about? And then you're going back and having a look and rereading, and then it just doesn't become, informative the way you want it to be. So for us to say, okay, we're going to read this book for this month,
Yeah,
and then we touch base with each other with our masterminds, which really spurs each other on. And I was so glad that you said, have you finished it yet? And I went, no, I'm only here. And you went, oh, thank goodness. I'm only
yep,
here at this page as well. So it was, but you spur each other on, and any moment that I had, even when I took my son to volleyball practice, I was the boring person in the corner reading the
yeah,
book, and I've never done
all right,
that. It's normally I'm on my phone, I'm literally scrolling on social media or seeing how my posts are doing, etc., etc. But to actually sit and read a book, and it was inspiring. It was literally a whole hour just went like that, and
yep,
I got so much value from it. So I thank you for that, and I
my
really
pleasure.
appreciate that. We're looking now to see which books we can inspire each other, either either what we've read or what we've seen either on social media or someone, in the book review.
Absolutely,
So
absolutely.
I really appreciate
So
it. So
no, good.
do you want to give a kind of a synopsis of this of the book?
Right. So I'll be frank with you. I've used my favorite AI tool right now, Perplexity.ai. Full disclosure. So I said, give me a quick summary of the book. So let me read it out to you, super quick. So Simon Sinek's book, The Infinite Game, explores the concept of viewing business as an ongoing, evolving process rather than a competition with a definitive endpoint. The book contrasts finite games, which have known players, fixed rules, clear endpoints, with infinite games, which have changing players, adaptable rules, and no defined conclusion. Sinek argues that adopting an infinite mindset leads to stronger, more innovative, and more resilient organizations, even if the benefits may take longer to materialize compared to a finite approach. The book emphasizes the importance of creating sustainable businesses that contribute to a better world and can continue operating indefinitely. And then my little notes on that was basically saying, when to look at a finite game, just to give any sport, right? Football, 90 minutes, 45-minute halves, give or take injury time. You have a winner, you have a loser. In football, you have this crazy thing that as North Americans we find detestable called a draw in a game that it actually you don't have a winner. You just call it
Hmm.
a tie, which is interesting. If you ever watch Ted Lasso, you understand why I have that feeling.
I
um,
love Ted Lasso.
well, indeed. Uh, so an infinite game, it's very interesting because it's actually it took me a while to kind of get into it. To be frank with you, the first bit got my attention. I kind of struggled and I got more into it as I went along. But basically, it's saying if I look at say your company or my company, it's not just that we have okay, this is our target, this is what we're doing, this is what's happening. You need to realize that you're part of a larger game that doesn't end. You have new entrants that come in. You have players that leave your team, that come in, that join, that leave. The market changes. The regulator may change. lots of things are evolving all the time. So if you have too much of a finite mindset, which is what he always contrasts the infinite mindset from the finite mindset, if you have a very strict finite mindset, over time, that can work extremely well. Sorry, that can work extremely well, but over time, you will lose out because the
Mm.
market will change and adapt. And if you're not changing and adapting with what's happening, then you'll lose out. But he also adds in, and this isn't a contradiction, he says, but at the same time, and he calls it, we'll talk about this in a minute, called your just cause, right? Is you have to have that vision for what you want to be. And it's that just cause doesn't change. That sticks as you go forward as a company, but how you do it, how you deliver it, um, changes. And so throughout the book, he gives a lot of great examples of companies and individuals that have gone through that.
Yeah, that was the inspiration. That was the inspiration for me when you read the stories that he included in the book, where, and they're recognizable big brands that,
Yeah,
we all can relate to, and the ones that, had the infinite goal and the ones
yeah,
that had the finite goal. It blew my mind in a way, and also it gave me a lot of reflection of my journey. And
yeah.
and that's what I wanted to throw at you, is just like, how did you sit when you were reading the book? How were you relating the book to what you've been through, where you're at now, and where you're going? Has that changed your vision moving forward?
Yeah, great question. To be honest, I started reading it right when we were doing our annual operating plan for 2025 as Nelson Park. So right when we were doing our plan, and not only that, but we were kind of resetting our 10, sorry, our 10-year, our 3-year, and our 1-year goal. And we were redoing all that at the same time as I was reading this. And literally, I spent a day with my leadership team. We do a 2-day event. I spent the first day, we have a break, and follow on the day after that. And I got home, I was reading the book, and I went, there we go. And so when I say there we go, what really dropped on me was for quite a while, we were so focused on this major goal, kind of 10 years down the line, which again isn't in itself a bad thing. But I just had this goal of growth, 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 growth. And and I thought, okay, again, nothing wrong with that as a goal. And your shareholders, I'm a shareholder of my own company. You want to
Hmm.
grow, you want to do that. But we were looking at the market, particularly in Qatar, and said, you know what? Instead of just looking at growing and growing and growing for growth's sake, why don't we just get better? Why don't we just try to get better? And the growth can follow from that, but let's really focus on us getting better as opposed to be higher numbers, higher numbers, higher numbers.
Mm.
But what can we do? And so instead of saying, okay, I'm at 40 people, I need to get to 100, why don't we look at, and this is one of the things that we've decided on, is let's stay within a range of people, like a kind of a full-time equivalent, to use a good HR term, FTE equivalent. Where do we want to be size-wise? Then let's just get better and better and better. And I I made this analogy years ago when I was on the board of the American school, when the American school was looking to expand, looking to have a second campus in Doha, and I was never in favor of that at the time, nor am I today, for that matter. And I said, I don't see Harvard opening campuses around the world. They have their campus, they do things around the world, they do courses around the world, but they effectively have their campus and they just get better and better and better at what they do. And that was
Mm.
my encouragement to the American school, was to say, we are where we are. Let's stay, use the land that we've been so graciously given by the government. Let's work on it and make it better and better and better as an institution. And so I looked at Nelson Park through this lens of the infinite game and said, okay, well, the game's going to change, the players will change, the rules will change, the regulator will change. What can I do just to get our team better and better and better? What can I do to make it easier for agents to focus, for agents to be successful? And that's how I started to change, looking at it as opposed to just saying, we need to be bigger. We need to be bigger. Yeah.
I I hear you, but what's going to be the messaging, or have you not worked on that out yet? And
That's one of my, yeah, no,
what's going to be
absolutely.
the philosophy and the the practices that you're going to put in place to make that happen?
Yeah, well, that's stage two, right? So I kind of read the book, got the idea, and I mean, we put it in when we set our goals for the year. It's in there that we said, listen, let's lower our numerical goals. So we still obviously have them, and they are challenging, and we do want to grow. But instead of just being purely fixated with So I'll try to use the terminology, the finite game of having the biggest team, right? What we want to do is actually make it. What's a brokerage business? I often like to say we're effectively in the agent business, right? We hire agents, agents do well, the company does well.
Hmm.
That's effectively the model. So
Hmm.
what can we do to make all of our agents more successful? And it's not that we haven't worked on that because we always are, but that's going to be really a major area of focus. How can we make it easier for them to work? How can we make it easier for them to get closed deals? How can we create more leads for them? What are all the things that will make their lives, for lack of a better, probably easier is not the right word, but what can we do to help them be more successful? Now, again, that's always there, but that's really now my major focal point is what are all the things that I can do to make their make them more successful?
Yeah, because when you were saying that, that's what I can relate. Knowing you for so long, that's always been your philosophy, is always putting systems in place, making sure that the agents have the leads, that you have a database, et cetera, that would make their lives
Yeah.
easier. But are you going to look at more on how they're going to show up, on how you can encourage them?
No, indeed. And so again, all the things around the agent that we need to look at how we can improve and to use, to speak of another book, which probably will find its way on our book of the month sometime this year, or if not this year, the next year, is Jim Collins's book, Good to Great. So Jim Collins has this, very simple but fantastic analogy of, your business is a bus and you want the right people on the bus and the
Mm,
wrong people off the bus,
mm,
right? So that's our agent team, right? Or that's our business. That's the bus. You get the right people on the bus, get the wrong people off. So if they don't fit with the company, they should be out. And if they fit in, keep them in and stay and have them there. Then the next stage of it is make sure the right people are in the right seats. Are they doing the right job? You know, if you have somebody
yeah,
that's really, really good on rentals, but they see potential to make more money on sales, but their real expertise is rentals, make sure they're focusing on what they're good at, as
yeah.
opposed to just chasing what they've heard other people have done,
Mm.
and where they can, potentially make money, but actually, at the end of the day, will not do as well because they're not focused on what they should be focused on. You
Yeah,
know?
I it was an eye opener for me because then I reflected on my journey as being an
Yeah.
entrepreneur and the businesses that I've set up in the past. And the first one was Limelight Production, which was the first animation house here in Qatar. But that was all we were. That was all our message, was just that we're the first animation here in Qatar. There was nothing
Yep.
else. So it was that finite thinking that, well, we're here and we're the first, so you should do business with us. And there was no long-term focus, and that's why it went bankrupt after a year, because we were just going,
Mm.
this is us, this is us. You must do business with us. And it was just like,
Yeah.
because we're the first. And it was just like
Exactly.
short, finite focus. So, and after that, with Ginger Camel, it was the fact that, and it was interesting as well, because when I was thinking about it, is the finite way of thinking in your head, and the infinite thinking comes from the heart.
Oh, interesting.
Because
Go on. Go on.
I had the finite thinking of like ego driven. I want to build a successful business. I want to be recognized in the market as being, quality. So that was my finite thinking, but from the heart, I wanted to build a platform that could support the team to be the most creative they could be.
There you go.
And that's what so when I was reading the book, it was just like, oh, yeah, finite thinking with the head, best, this is who we are in the market. But coming from the heart was, I need to create a platform that people could just come and be the best version that they could be, and create a
Yeah.
platform that, they when they go out into the market, that the values, the focus would be there. And that's what people picked up when they would come into the office. They felt the energy, and that was the driving force within the company. But my finite thinking was, got to be the best, got to be the best,
Yeah.
and not thinking further than that. So when COVID came along, that just kind of knocked me for six, because didn't matter how good we are. Didn't matter that we were one of the top film production companies.
Yeah.
COVID came along, and the people were there because you looked after them, you created a platform, and they held on as long as possible. But the market didn't care that you were the big and the best. They were looking for who's the cheapest, who can I get
Yeah.
videos out there quick. And that's why I feel that, in the end I had to close the business, because I had that finite mindset.
Well, I think the so just for the North American viewers, getting hit for six is a cricket term. It's equivalent of a home run in baseball. I'm here. I provide that service for free. But just, I mean, what you said was interesting. How what inspires your team, right? And what this is, again, this whole idea of the just cause in the book.
Mm,
Basically, it inspires. Basically says leaders should establish a big picture vision that provides a framework for corporate strategies and inspires people to work towards a greater purpose. Um, and that's it's not easy, right? It's a
no.
challenging thing, and it's interesting that you say about from the heart. Um, I think the often this is kind of what I'm still debating in my mind, or still working on through my mind, to say, we want to be like, okay, this is, I'll make up a number just for the sake of it. Okay, we want to have $30 million sales by 2040, right? That's probably not that inspiring to many people, right? And thinking, really looking at what is the cause, what are you behind, what makes something work, is it's a challenge to come up with it, to really think about what that is, because often, again, we do think, and I'm, my background, I'm a banker for 18 years, and you kind of think in numbers a lot, and sometimes it just gets lost in the numbers as opposed to what's that just cause. This is what when I said when I was reading the book, I was like, what's he on about? Not really getting it. Then the penny dropped. I want to share one of the there's many stories in the book, and I'm going to share the story about Eastman Kodak, or Kodak, which is now
Mm,
filed for bankruptcy. And the reason I want to share it, because everyone that's listening to the podcast right now has just gone, I know that story, and I've heard it a million times. And in fact, the other book I'm reading also may find its way. Where is it? Oh, by Nimble Future, by a little plug for Gary. Gary's my own personal coach, great man, a strategic coach. His recent book, he refers to the story as well. But Simon Sinek in this book refers to it. And so most people know the idea that at one stage Kodak was, and like 90% market share of the film production in North America, or globally, probably just North America, and are now bankrupt, and mainly due to digital photography, because they got stuck. And often it's used as a case of a company that didn't change with the times. Now, then that's correct. That's absolutely
mm,
correct. But what Simon Sinek brings out of the book, which I found fascinating, was that Mr. I think I mentioned him as Mr. Kodak. It's actually Mr. Eastman Kodak. His just cause was to bring photography to the masses. That was his goal, right? And so before he invented celluloid, or film as we called it, um, photography was the realm of professional photographers with, a lot of kit, a lot of stuff to work with, toxic materials. Remember, even in my high school, okay, this is the early 80s, we had a dark room that only
mm,
the AV and film club could go in, right?
yeah,
And you had a light outside. When they had the lights off, you can't go in, because it was a big deal. And so his vision, his just cause, was to bring photography to the masses. And the whole idea of, push the button, one click. And I'm sure you would have had your little Kodak at one stage, Stefan. You take it down, you come back a day later, pick up your photos, and then you had 1 hour photos, which became incredible. And sometimes you could
absolutely.
just order it, go get a coffee, and come back, and you had your photos. Um, so here's the killer, was that digital photography was effectively invented by Kodak,
Yeah,
right? They had a megapixel camera, and they went, no, that's going to compete with us, because they found that their business was film. And no surprise, right? You have a 95% market share, that you think your business is film. But again, the just cause from Mr. Eastman was about bringing photography to the masses. And had they kept that vision, now it's easy to say with hindsight, of course, but Had they stuck with that vision, that just cause, they would have realized actually this is going to be incredible. Our just cause is to bring that to the masses. Let's pivot. Let's keep film going, obviously, but let's pivot and bring this in. And because they didn't, and we all know, what digital photography has changed all of our lives. I was trying to think of the last time I actually had a picture printed.
Mm.
It's been a while, and because they lost sight of that original just cause, the company eventually went bankrupt. And I found that so fascinating because I've heard that story so many times that okay, they failed to change. Yeah, I knew that, but it was not only did they fail to change, but they lost their original vision of providing that service to the masses. Had they stuck with that vision, they would have been there.
That's yes, I heard the story, but
Yeah,
it was that pivot. It was losing the just cause,
yeah,
and but also Mr. Eastman had died, so it was
also true. Yeah,
a new generation that was leading the business. So they kind of lost focus on the just cause as well. But
yeah,
I want to go back to what you said about the money, about going for a target,
yeah,
because I always talk about that with my clients is the fact that when we're looking at goals, if you're just focusing on money, I always say that that's just looking at a bone with no meat on it. There's nothing to put your teeth into and really enjoy, the
yep,
succulent meat. You're just telling me that, oh, here's a figure and it's just a bone, and that's not really attractive. So you've got to create the vision around that bone. You've got to put the meat on the bone to make it more attractive.
yeah, yeah, totally. There has to be a
So
much bigger story.
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely, and that's why I say to clients is don't focus on the money, focus on the life that it will bring. That money will bring you this, and it will allow you to do this, and it will give you, freedom to explore this, etc., 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 which is the meat, rather than a figure, which is like, well, I don't know what that means. What does that mean? All
yeah,
right, it sounds like a big number, but what does that mean? Will that bring me happiness? I don't know.
yeah. Well, and I'm sure you've done it with goal setting as well. Um, when you really get into goal setting and goal achieving, they would say it's not about the how, right? It's actually about the why.
Mm,
Why
exactly.
do you want to do this? So you want to
Yeah.
have the biggest film production company in Qatar. Why? And it might be just to have the biggest, but that's probably not. It's probably not incredibly inspiring to everybody. It would be inspiring to some, but probably not everybody. So why do you want to have it, right? And I always say to my agents, you need to know what your why is.
Mm,
You want to, it's a commission based business. You want to work hard or earn commissions to earn money. And then the answer has to be why. So I had an ex colleague of mine, Zafar. Him and I used to talk about it all the time. Our why was to pay for our children's education. That was our big why, right? That was the big expense. We both wanted to see. He has 3 kids. I have 3 kids. We wanted to both do our very best to get our kids set up for life by giving them the best education they can get, and they
yeah.
right, and they finish the.
Which comes from the heart, which gives you a sense of, responsibility or value
Yeah,
rather than just a figure. Well, what's it for?
and so we've got a team full of a number of agents, and if your why is Jimmy Choo shoes, that's okay, no problem. If that's your why, that's
Who?
cool.
What's Jimmy Choo
Uh,
Choo's?
Jimmy Choo shoes, they're expensive. Um,
Oh,
the
never heard of
but
them.
well, indeed, and hopefully you never wear them. The if that if that's your why, that's fine. If
Mm,
your why is labels, that's okay too. It's not a problem. Just as long as you make it clear, that's what it is. One of my earliest agents, his that was well, he loved, as he would define it, the finer things in life. He wanted high end travel. He liked high end whiskey. He liked leather goods. There's just so for him, it was he wanted to earn money so he could experience those things in life. Nothing wrong with that, right? That was his why. He knew what it was, and that was he was set on. Where it often fails when people don't have a why, or they say, if I bring it back to Nelson Park, well, if I close the deal, I close the deal. If I don't, I don't. No, that that never works. That never works.
I remember you telling me one time that you were, because you do a little bit of coaching with your team, and I remember
Yeah,
you having someone. and you literally went deeper on the why. You kept on saying why and
Yeah,
why and
yeah,
why,
yeah.
and you got to a point that, the agent. I think what I recall was that nearly all the team were crying because you
No,
didn't
but
know.
she was in tears. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry. I'll tell you super quick. It was, another gentleman from Strategic Coach. Um, in fact, I'm sort of scanning my desk looking for his name. I'll put it in the show notes. Um, and he would always he had this little trick I call it where he would basically say to somebody, so what's your target? So I want to do $2 million in sales. Okay, and you say, so that
that was
oh, so
it. It
that
was the so that. Yeah.
I make so 2 million, then I make $1 million. So that so I can do this. And in this particular case with one of my colleagues, it literally went from her so that to like 10 times so that we got to so my son has a better life.
Mm.
And it was literally from it was getting healthy to kind of getting healthy so I'm happier, so I can do a better job, so I can get paid better, so I can be successful, so I can pay for my son. And it was literally from getting healthy to my son having a better life. That
Mm.
was her so that. And it's powerful when you really dig in to make that happen. It becomes extremely, extremely, extremely powerful when you see that happen.
Yeah.
Really, really incredible to see that. Yeah,
So yeah, the book, I love the fact that, we're going down this road, and the fact that that's what books are there for. It's for
yeah,
learning, but it's also good for reflection. When you hear a story or you read an example, it's great to learn from the shoulders of others, but
yeah.
also to be inspired, but also to reflect on your journey, where you're at now, and where you want to go. And
Can I
this book has been great for that for me.
I totally agree. I'm going to give you one more example before I do, just because I did a quick search. The gentleman's name is Lee Brower, is also from Strategic Coach. So Lee Brower, and he has a podcast called Meaningful Mondays. Little short, literally 4 to 5 minutes every Monday podcast he puts out. Excellent, real gentleman. Well, I'll leave the other one. The other example that people talk about all the time. So Kodak is known for inventing the digital camera and doing nothing with it. Uh, you read the book, Stefan, so I'm going to test you for your memory.
Oh
I
no.
know you're not. I know you actually you have a lot of technical skills. I appreciate you're not a nerd like me, but who invented well we GUI or graphic user interface? Which company famously or infamously
Oh
invented that?
yes, Xerox.
Yeah, it was Xerox. Well done. Right. So Xerox is known as the company that effectively invented GUI, graphic user interface, which kind of formed the whole idea of what Apple uses and Microsoft and Windows and everything like that, where you basically click your mouse on things. So Jobs and other of his guys were visiting, I think it was visiting Xerox, and they showed them this item, and Xerox are the document company as they brand themselves. And so Steve Jobs saw it and went, right, we need that. We need to build
Mm.
that ourselves from scratch. And he went back to the team like, but Steve, they had, I think by then they had released the Apple 1 and 2 before they
Yeah.
released the Macintosh. And they basically said, no, 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 this is the future. We've got to change everything. And again, that's having, you know, the it's a family show, the cojones, right, to make a big chance, intestinal fortitude,
Absolutely.
and the
Yeah.
guts to make a. In fact, the book says massive changes when needed. Right, it's saying right, we see this as the future. Um, we've got to do this. We've got to make it happen. Even if that says right, we got to fundamentally change our model.
Mm.
And that's hard,
And
right?
that's what he did.
That
Yeah. No,
that that's
absolutely.
that's that's brutally hard. And again, I don't think it's actually in the book, or if it is, it's referred to briefly. The other example always in business is about Blockbuster, right? And I had all the video stores. Did you have Blockbuster in the UK? Did you
Yes,
have
we
that
did.
there?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So all
Yeah.
over North America, all over the UK, and they were big, 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 and then they spectacularly went under, right? And in fact, Netflix ate their lunch.
Mm.
But the Netflix that we know of today is not the Netflix that started.
No.
You know, the
It was
business
it
was
was It was mentioned in the book.
Oh, it was okay. It's in there. So
Yeah.
I mean, they weren't producing their own movies. They weren't. It wasn't a streaming service. It was basically you rented a video by having it come to your house, and
On
then you send
DVD.
it back.
Was it
Yeah,
on
yeah. There
DVD?
you go. I
Yeah.
think probably both. Yeah, but
Mm,
basically you would. Yeah, they were a direct competitor, and then they saw streaming as the future.
yeah.
Right? Mark Cuban, the famous entrepreneur from Shark Tank and owner of the Dallas Mavericks, that's all his money from streaming. They saw the opportunity and changed their models and made it incredibly successful. So that's the other part of the game is, the game will change, the rules will change, they won't stay the same uh, for you or for us, and you've got to adapt as you
No,
as you move forward.
that's why the just cause is important because the game will always be changing. So if
Yeah,
you've got a finite mindset and just, money, 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 you're very it's very focused on, the
yeah,
market at that present time. Where if you've got an infinite mindset, you're literally, okay, we're always looking out for people. And if the market changes, how do we adapt to still keep on looking after people? Provide
true,
the product or the service that they expect.
true. Now, my turn to ask you a question. Since we don't have a script, I like the fact that I've actually thought of a question for a change. Okay, so the bit that you and I discussed when we had coffee the other day. Talk to the crowd now about the worthy rival. Can you remember that bit where you have a worthy? He was talking about his competitor in his field. They talked about Apple a little bit about that, about BlackBerry
He
and
was.
others.
No, it was his, and that was the surprise because you think that Simon would be, writing this kind of book that he
And
wouldn't
he's out
think
there.
that. Yeah, and he
Yeah,
freely admitted that his focus was to rival this other guy who was doing the same
yeah,
sort of thing that he was.
yeah,
And he realized that that wasn't healthy and it was, he wasn't living the way he should and focusing on where he was going. He was just literally trying to better this guy.
yeah. So I'm going to ask you now. So the book sort of says, instead of focusing on competitors, leaders, you and me and others, should view them, your worthy rival that is, as opportunities for learning and improvement. So
Absolutely.
do you have a worthy rival today, or rivals for that matter? Do you have anybody that you're looking at?
Oh,
You don't have to name.
now in
Yeah,
my on my new journey,
yeah,
uh, well, well, yes,
yeah. I'm sure you
but
do. Yeah,
they've been in the game for years and years and years. But
right.
I'm just a little minnow that's just started out. So I see them, but that's the interesting thing. Since reading that book,
That's it.
I've gone to all the other coaches that are out there, and I'm watching and I'm learning where before it'd be like you would have this jealous feeling and go, oh no,
There you go. That's it. That's it.
Exactly. Now I'm looking at, okay, and I'm thinking, well done, because also with you getting out there, you're educating, and that's what I always thought about podcasts when I was doing podcasts. I was always supporting other podcasts because you're helping to educate the audience that there are podcasts out there, and they, if they hear yours, they might be curious and go, "Oh, who else is either locally or internationally or talking about a different subject?" And they would find maybe my podcast. So that's
Yep.
how I'm viewing the coaching realm, and I'm looking at other coaches and I'm just looking at, you're getting out there. I'm getting out there for you, but also for me. You're getting out there
Yep.
for you, but you can only handle so many clients. And how many people are there? 8 billion people in this world. I
Yep.
think there's not enough coaches to support all the people that are out there. So I'm not worried. And you've only got 24 hours in a day, et cetera, to look after so many clients. So you do your
Yep.
best, you get out there, and I'm going to be watching. I'm going to see if there's something that I can take, and we are worthy rivals, and we are,
Beautiful.
hopefully
Yep.
working together and looking after people. So no, I
There
don't.
you go.
I love it. Where my ego-driven person, me years back wouldn't have seen that.
Yeah. No, you're at the networking function. They walk in. I hate that guy. Right.
Yeah.
I have 42,000 followers, and he has 42,001. I hate that guy.
Yeah.
But I think you nailed it because, right, it's about a worthy rival, not a competitor. Because you're
No.
not, I mean, you're not competing with Simon Sinek. You're not competing with, I actually don't know well, you're not competing with Dan Sullivan. You're not competing with
No,
Dan as a
exactly.
strategic coach or Lee Brower or Gary Montezhead.
Tony
You're doing
Robbins,
your thing.
yeah, I'm
Yep.
doing my thing and my personality and my energy and how I like to work. I could never
Yep.
be, Tony Robbins that literally, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
Well, maybe I could, but, you know,
I'll just to put it out there to kind of answer my own question now, back to me on if I look at say the Qatar market for real estate, yeah, I've got two or three companies in Qatar and two in particular that I think, yeah, listen, they're good.
mm,
They're good.
mm,
They're doing some really good things. I
yeah,
I do actually I do want to be better than them, absolutely. But
absolutely.
in fact, because of the nature of real estate, we actually do collaborate from time to time as well. But I look at them and think, oh, that's really good. In fact, you mentioned this morning one of the worthy rivals has a video. I thought that was really good, right? So I
It
can
was, it was
smash.
different. It was out of the box. And I thought,
Yep,
good on you. Good on you. You're
yep,
you're trying new things. And I was thinking, from my production days is, oh, I wonder how much that cost and I wonder who did that.
yeah,
Um, just out of curiosity. But to come up with that idea and, put it out there, I thought, yeah, that's different. And,
yep,
that's setting something for you to look at and go, well, we've never tried that. Maybe we should try something similar or in a different way, but in our own special way.
yep.
Yeah.
I appreciate we've gone on a bit. Do we have time for another 3 or 4 minutes? Can I throw one more thing into the mix?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, because I think it's in the book and about this the idea of trusting teams and having trust within the team. Uh, as it happened, this is how I first heard about Simon Sinek. I saw a video of him discussing this 2x2 matrix. So again, without visual aids, and I'm pretty sure I probably could have drawn something, but I'll do my best. So think of your typical 2x2 matrix or a graph where you have, on the x-axis on the bottom, you have levels of trust. On the y-axis going straight up, you have performance. So your bottom left quadrant is team members that are low trust and low performance. And he basically said he built this model from talking to the Navy SEALs and how they look at their people. What kind of people they want on the team. So they have bottom left is low trust, low performance. They're out. You don't want them. So who do you want? Well, you want top right corner, high trust, high performance, easy. So bottom left out, bottom top right. That's what you want.
Mm.
So then you've left with top left, which is high performance, low trust. Bottom right is high trust, but low performance. And the question is, if the top right's what you want, who's your second pick? And this was the great revelation when I first heard of Simon Sinek, when I first saw the video. And he said, when you look at SEAL Team 6 or whoever it was, I'm sure probably the same with the SAS, to tip my hat to my fellow friends in the UK,
Hmm.
is they said, we'd rather have high trust with lower performance than top left, which is high performance but low trust. And I found that fascinating because over the years, I've had those guys on my team.
I bet
And
you have.
I will use family appropriate language. They are the troublemakers in your business. They are toxic and they will kill your business.
The
Is
high
your top left,
performance, low
high performance
trust.
but low trust. Nobody
Yeah.
wants to work with them.
Yeah.
Um, again, it's a relative scale on the performance side. Now you don't want a low performer, but you do want that trust. And if they're performing at a regular level, you can train them to get better and better. And
I hear you, Jeffrey, but as a
but
business owner, sometimes that's
yep,
hard because high performance means lots of money coming in.
yep,
And do we turn a blind eye to that
yep,
because you're looking at the figures as a business
we
owner,
do.
you're looking at the figures. So what to do?
It takes guts, right? It takes intestinal fortitude. It takes cojones to
It
say,
does
right,
take
listen.
cojones.
But what it does is, and this is what, again, I've seen the example so many times, but again, as with many things in life, when you read it for the 50th time, something new pops out that was always there that you finally see. And it was when he said this. And ironically or not, we have our awards presentation this week at Nelson Park, our annual awards party. And so it made me think of it when I read it. And it said, if you promote and if you push forward those that are high performance and low trust, you're telling the entire business, so that's what gets rewarded.
Yeah.
And they follow them, right? And that was the bit that really got me. It's like, yeah, you're teaching everybody. That's what you value. What you value is purely performance. Ethics be damned, no matter how you got it. There's another great, I forget the actual word they use in the book. I forget both. Basically where your ethics fade, your ethics change over the years. We'll save that for another podcast. But if you buy the book, which we highly recommend, read that one. It's enlightening on when ethics fades. I'm looking at you, Wells Fargo Bank, that used to be partially owned by HSBC.
Yeah.
Looking at you right down the barrel about ethics fade. Incredible what can happen. And yeah, when you do that, you're finished. So there, I'm done.
Superb.
Thanks for the extra few minutes.
Nicely finished. Last question as we round this up. With all this insight, has that changed our perspective on the way we move forward with the Majlis Masters Network?
Absolutely. First of all, we need to do it because we need to have more people sharing ideas, sharing their experience, and the beauty of the network. Oh, what a great segue. The beauty of the network is we're not competitors, right? We're there to learn from each other and help each other. That's a fact. I mean, look, you and I, we're totally different industries, but we've always learned from each other.
Absolutely.
And that's the beauty of what we're putting together with Majlis Masters is that, people are masters and they have great expertise in certain areas. And it's rare that a lesson that I can learn in Nelson Park can't translate to a pharmaceutical company, or an accounting firm can't share something which could help out a marketing company. There's so much that's in common, much in common that we can all benefit from.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, my man. It's been a pleasure.
My pleasure.
And I think this has been quite a good first one.
Yep, me too.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to the second one.
You got me to talk.
Let's just promote our second one.
All right, where is it hiding?
This is done by a friend of ours called Mohammed Shabib. He is the franchise owner of Doha BNI or Qatar BNI, and he's the partner with Action Coach. I've known Shabib for many, many years, and you've known him for many years.
At least 5-6 years, yeah.
This is a recent book that he's released, so I thought, what great timing. This is our second book. So I'm looking forward to that. Absolutely. All right then, Jeffrey. Really appreciate it. Stefan. And I look forward to our next show. All the best. Thank you. Thank you for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.
Hopefully that gave you something to think about. Enjoy your week, and if you need assistance with any of your real estate needs, get in touch with Nelson Park Property at nelsonparkproperty.com.